Matt, this is a really powerful piece because it tells in a very moving way the story of the Sandy Hook families, and it also talks about how they have helped change the politics of guns in Washington. Could you talk about them and your experiences with them, and why this tragedy seemed to change the debate in a way that so many other tragedies hadn't?
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary experience working with the Sandy Hook folks. I think the reason that this tragedy impacted Washington so differently, there's two reasons. First of all, it involved 26-year-olds. I mean, we've had larger gun massacres, marginally larger gun massacres than Sandy Hook before, but we've never had anything that touched people the way that this did. And what you saw was politicians responding not as political people, but as people, as parents. And so when someone comes and tells you the story of the murder of their 6-year-old, that has an impact on anyone in very powerful emotional ways that other tragedies just haven't. I think the second reason, though, is that this group of people, the Sandy Hook families, organized themselves very quickly with the help of others in their community into Sandy Hook Promise, which has become, in very short time, an amazingly effective and sophisticated advocacy organization for things like mental health and school safety, but also for changes to our gun laws. And we've never seen that before in the gun debate.
And so many people, myself included, thought that this time Congress would act differently. And it is true that the background checks bill got 54 votes, but it couldn't get to 60 votes. Why did it fall short this time? And is there a next time?
I believe there is a next time. And those of us involved in the debate didn't really expect to win on the first go, even in the Senate, because the politics of this issue are so unbelievably difficult. It is very, very hard to get virtually any Republicans and many Democrats to vote for anything that the NRA opposes, and the NRA opposed this hammer and tongs. So we knew it would be an uphill fight, but we also take some hope from history where in the past other gun safety bills have taken some time to get across the finish line. We think that's going to happen here too, and now we have the Sandy Hook families who are staying in the arena, who are continuing their efforts, coming to Washington, meeting with senators, and we think over time that's going to make a real difference.
You also make references in the paper to the fact that this is, if not the first, one of the first times where senators who voted with the gun lobby actually lost ground, and senators who voted for background checks in rather conservative states actually gained ground in the polls.
Right, we've never seen that before. The polling shocked everyone, I think most especially those senators who were polled and who lost ground. And I think what you saw from people like Republicans like Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire and Jeff Flake in Arizona, who saw their support drop dramatically after the vote, that really brought them up short. The other thing here is that they are unable to articulate a reason that they voted against this bill other than anything as purely political. They thought that the politics would work for them. They were wrong. They don't have a substantive reason to oppose the bill. That's a very uncomfortable place for a politician to be, and that's why we're pretty hopeful that some of those folks will change their view.
A lot of the Sandy Hook families, when this all started, thought that the obvious thing to do would be to ban high-capacity magazines. You talk in the paper about how some kids' lives were saved when he had to change the magazines, and had there been smaller magazines, more lives could have been changed. Why is it so hard that the ban on high-capacity magazines got fewer votes than background checks? Why is that so difficult?
Well, I think anytime the word ban is involved in the politics of guns, things get really, really difficult. They banned high-capacity magazines in the assault weapons ban of 1994. The impact of that ban was fairly limited. It was still very easy to get those high-capacity magazines because they grandfathered in the ones that had come before. Now it's particularly easy. You can buy one on the internet for about $12, and there are millions of them in circulation. So it is difficult to convince political leaders to take the step of banning some kind of gun or gun product when they know that the impact might be relatively limited, and I think that's part of the reason it gets so tough.
You talk in the paper about two stories, one about the danger of guns, the other a political story. I want to ask you about both of those. You speak about Ali Boumelhem of Hezbollah and how he was talking to people in Hezbollah about how to buy guns at gun shows. Can you tell that story?
Well, there's actually two stories relating to kind of terrorists and gun shows. The first is Ali Boumelhem. He was a Hezbollah terrorist. He was followed by federal authorities to a gun show in Michigan in 2001 where he purchased guns, assault rifles, AR-15s. They then followed him to his auto parts warehouse where he packed them into auto parts and had intended to ship them to his compatriots in Lebanon, to Hezbollah. So here you have a Hezbollah agent buying guns at a U.S. gun show without going through a background check. He bought them from an unlicensed seller at a Michigan gun show and was going to ship them off to the Bekaa Valley. The second case, even more amazing, is Adam Gadon, who was an American spokesman for Al-Qaeda. And he did a video, which is widely available still on the internet, where he encourages Al-Qaeda supporters to go and buy guns at American gun shows, noting that it is incredibly easy to buy them and there will be no questions asked, no background checks run if they buy them from the right people in the right places. And so that is kind of a shocking exposure of how the gun show loophole is dangerous not only for regular crime in the United States, but even for terrorism.
And you have, at some point in the paper, you talk about how licensed gun dealers at gun shows have to go through the background check, but other tables just have no questions asked on it.
It's shocking. If you walk through the gun show in 33 states where the gun show loophole is still open, in the others, the states have kind of closed the loophole on their own. But there's been no federal law to do it. So in 33 states, you can go to a gun show, and these are every weekend, hundreds of them, with thousands of vendors. And you'll see some licensed dealers, Dick's Sporting Goods or Frank's Guns, and they will be running background checks, which take about 2 minutes. They use their cell phone, they call a number, it's complete. At the next table over, there's a guy with the same kind of guns laid out on the table and a sign that says, no questions asked, no paperwork. And if you're a criminal, where are you going to shop?
Exactly. You also tell the story of an exchange that I found pretty powerful between former Senator Larry Craig and Senator Dianne Feinstein. Just tell that story.
The amazing thing about this debate was that Senator Craig was a member of the NRA board of directors while he was in the Senate. He was a very conservative senator from Idaho. He was debating with Senator Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, then a freshman senator from California. And I'm paraphrasing, but Craig kind of sneeringly told Feinstein that she needed to learn more about guns. The gentle lady from California needed to learn more about guns. And Feinstein said, look, Senator, I know plenty about the power of what guns can do. I put my finger into the bullet hole of my friend in the San Francisco City Hall after an assassination and was feeling for a pulse inside the bullet hole. I know what guns can do. So that exchange really was a rare example of the otherwise kind of staid Senate debate being injected with the kind of power that the gun debate can have in the real world.
Where do we go from here, and do you think there's a chance of passing background checks before the 2014 elections?
Well, betting on Congress acting before the 2014 election is perhaps not wise, but I do think that we are moving forward in ways that are quite different than we've seen for the last 20 years or so in the gun debate. There hasn't been a major federal gun law passed since 1994 when the assault weapons ban was passed. These things take a long time. The first Brady bill, which required background checks for sales from gun dealers, was introduced first in 1981 in the immediate aftermath of Hinckley's attack on President Reagan that injured his press secretary, Jim Brady. And it took 12 years. President Clinton signed that into law 12 years later. I hope and expect that it won't take 12 years to close these loopholes, the gun show and internet loopholes that Senators Manchin and Toomey are trying to do now, but I do think it's going to take some time. I'm not sure it'll be before 2014, but I do think we'll see progress in the Senate before then, and then in the House we'll just have to see.
Thank you, Matt, for writing this paper and for sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you.